If you listen to our podcast, you'll know that I left this Riot Games previous game on a train and then spent the rest of the evening chasing around the West Midlands trying to retrieve said item from train. Well, the latest game from Riot Games is significantly smaller. Much smaller. So it's less likely you're going to lose it on a train. But is it any good? Tellstones is a game of memory. It's so quick you can probably play a game in less time than it takes to watch this video. It's all based around these lovely ceramic chips, each one beautifully engraved with a simple but distinctive symbol. Throughout the game, you and your opponent will subtly move these pieces around the line, attempting to bamboozle each other into forgetting which symbol is where. The gameplay is really simple. Each turn you can ask your opponent to add another symbol to the line, ask them to turn a symbol over, hiding it, or ask them to swap the location of two pieces. Alternatively, you can take a sneaky peek at one of the face-down pieces. But to score points, you're going to need to challenge your opponent's memory. The important aspect here is that you are not taking these actions yourself. You are asking your opponent to make these changes. At first this seems counterintuitive. Why can't I move the pieces when it's my turn? But the reason is subtle, and one of the ways in which Tellstones is a really clever game. By making your opponent move the pieces, there can be no accusations of shenanigans. You're only told what pieces to move by pointing at them, and you can watch them like a hawk while they do so. What's more, you aren't supposed to name the pieces, only point at them. Again, this is a much more clever rule than it first seems. Bestowing a name upon something gives it power. Or more importantly, it sticks in your memory better. So by simply pointing at a piece, you're making it more difficult for both players to remember where the pieces are. The challenge, of course, is where things get interesting. The simplest challenge is merely to point at a face-down token and ask the player to name it. They get it right, they get a point. They get it wrong, you get a point. And the first to 3 points wins the game. However, it's the boast where things really happen. Instead of simply challenging your opponent, you can state that you know all the face-down tokens. Your opponent can simply state that they believe you and award you a point. They can tell you to prove it, or they can say that they also know, in which case the tables are turned. You then either have to believe them, again awarding them a point, or you have to prove that you know where all the pieces are. The interesting thing about this is that once the reveal is initiated, it's game over. Because if the person doing the reveal gets all the face-down tokens correct, they win, regardless of score. But if they get a single token wrong, they lose the game. So Tellstones is a game all about memory with a good dose of bluffing. Now that does mean there's a certain amount of skill in the game. I, for one, have a terrible memory, hence how I managed to leave a copy of this beast on a train. My wife, however, has a brilliant memory and has beaten me at every single game of Tellstones. But if you can find an opponent that has the same memory capacity as yourself, then Tellstones is a very tense game. There's a very fine balance between moving the tokens around just enough that you remember, or at least think you remember, where all the pieces are, but that you confuse your opponent and they don't know. There's also the skill of the poker-like bluff. Especially when it comes to the boast. You're either hoping to get a quick point out of it, but if you get challenged, you could end up losing the game. The game is backed up by some utterly beautiful components, from this, quite frankly, over-engineered case to these weighty tokens and this decadent velvet playmat. There's no doubting that this is a premium product, which is, to be fair, what we were expecting after the pure luxury of Mechs vs Minions. Tellstones is a quick but tense game. You may be able to play the game in 5 to 10 minutes, but it's no means a lesser experience due to the short playtime. And to me, it acts as both a counterpoint and a perfect follow-up to Mechs vs Minions. Because Riot Games have made a crafty little amuse-bouche compared to Mechs vs Minions' 10-course tasting menu.